I'm Kenny Shu, and I'm president of Color Us United. We were the organization that broke the Salvation Army's critical race theory indoctrination over Thanksgiving weekend. And I regret to say this, but the Salvation Army has responded by trying to bury the story. And they are lying about the depth that wokeness has really entrenched into their system. And I'm here today to tell you that the Salvation Army that you know is not the Salvation Army that is going on right now. In fact, they've banned talk, according to the officer testimony that I've been talking to, inside the Salvation Army. They've banned talk of let's talk about racism or critical race theory in their Facebook groups. And now they're going on a campaign trying to say, we haven't gone woke. And they think that removing their Let's Talk About Racism curriculum is enough to keep out the journalists and to keep out the people who are trying to see what's really going on. They're trying to reassure their big donors like Jerry Jones that everything is all in well and the Salvation Army is still American pie. And I'm here to tell you that is not what's happening. And I'm here to tell you the evidence to show unequivocally that they have been peddling wokeness for a long time, but particularly since the death of George Floyd. The Salvation Army has been engaging in DEI trainings, mandatory DEI trainings, where they're asking officers to listen to people, talk about the content of Let's Talk About Racism. Authors who were cited in Let's Talk About Racism came to a racial equity officer training in the Western Territory, where they talked about critical race theory and the idea that America is a systemically racist country. And they said, stop trying to be colorblind. The Salvation Army has also been peddling internal surveys on racism, where they have been surveying their members, saying, take this survey about racism in the Salvation Army. And what happens? I took that survey because an officer sent me a survey from the Central Territory, and I went through this survey. And it asks you, do you believe that systemic racism exists in the Salvation Army? If you click no, it says, do you believe that others believe that systemic racism exists in the Salvation Army? And of course, you have to click yes. And then it says things like, how is systemic racism entrenched in the Salvation Army? Through this and that, through hiring, promotion, through all of those kinds of things. And then it asks, how do we solve racism in the Salvation Army? And there is no option for you to say, with all due respect, racism is not a problem in the Salvation Army. In fact, the Salvation Army is an example of the colorblindness of America, the generosity of ordinary Americans who give to help the poor and marginalized, no matter what the color of their skin is. They've been peddling surveys whose sole purpose, objective, is to assert the narrative that America is a racist country and that the Salvation Army is infected with racism, so they can push their DEI equity policies, which leads me to this. At their College of Officer Training, where they train all of their officers to go out into the world and serve God's kingdom, they have implanted 2 new DEI officers, the Reardons, who now have unprecedented control over the Salvation Army's curriculum materials. These officers have the power to review every training program of the Salvation Army and to veto it for not being DEI compliant. That's 1984, guys. That's cancel culture right there. The Salvation Army has been implanting wokeness in its members. It has done so. We have the evidence. We know it's happening, and they're trying to deny it. They're lying through their teeth. Look, you don't release Let's Talk About Racism with the endorsement of your general, the highest ranking official in the Salvation Army. Unless you plan on doing something with it, and they did. They implanted wokeness throughout the entire body of the Salvation Army. DEI everywhere, critical race theory everywhere, in trainings, in surveys, in materials. And guess what, guys? How does this affect a single inner city child? How does this help the future? How does asserting that America is a racist country, how does attacking colorblindness help a single inner city child whose problems are not racism, they're drugs, they're crime, education, transportation, housing? The Salvation Army was created and set up to meet those needs, not to peddle political ideologies like critical race theory. And you know what? You know what really gets me going? Commander Kenneth Hotchner, who I talked to twice, who agreed with me in meetings that CRT solves nothing, will not come out with a statement denouncing CRT, will not come out with a statement saying that America is not a racist country, because he is beholden to the progressive ideologues within the Salvation Army that want to defend the idea that America is a racist country for no good reason except for their own personal benefit so they can get a promotion in DEI. So I'm coming out, and I'm going to say this publicly because no one else will. Salvation Army, you are lying to your supporters. And you need to come out with a statement. Squat. America is not a racist country. In fact, it is the generosity of ordinary Americans of all colors who allow the Salvation Army to do its work throughout the world. That is the statement you should be making in this holiday season, not a statement of political division, not a statement of CRT, not trying to peddle racial incessant division between your members. So listen loud and clear, guys. Commander Kenneth Hotchner, stop lying. Stop lying to the people who rely on you to tell the truth. Thank you.